Hello, this is Dr. Glenn Shepard, and I have a series of videos. It's on YouTube that the channel is Freedom, Love, and Joy, and I hope you would subscribe and join me in this series. I have a whole series of videos that all fit together in certain topics, okay, about how we can change the world and how we can change education, okay, in its whole series. And I have two books that I've written on the topic as well, and you can get those on Amazon.com. But for this video, I would like to describe what is I call the probe method, and that's for education. And it's what a probe is. It's a thorough investigation, and so the probe method is a thorough investigation of any topic, question, or problem. Okay, that's the way I have defined it. And I'm a teacher from the 70s. Okay, started out. So I've been in education for 50 years or so, and I've always wanted to teach more of a student-centered approach. Okay, and the system is set up where teachers have a very hard time doing that. You have to be in a certain places, but normally this is not going to happen. We are in a very teacher-centered system that requires students to follow the curriculum, follow the guidelines. Teachers have to follow that. It's subject matter approach, and it's the wrong way for students to learn. Those particular children. This is not the way children learn. And I have another video called "The History of Education" that you should watch if you're interested in that, where I explain more about the problems in our school system and education. That they're not providing children with the education they need. Children need freedom. They need to learn how to think. They need to learn how to put things together and figure things out. They need more of an interdisciplinary approach, not a subject matter approach. Okay, this is for adults learning type thing. So we have a lot of problems in our schools, and they're actually harming our children, and they're harming our society. And this is why I got into this to begin with back 50 years ago. Thought I could change the school system, and I actually got kicked out of my first students teaching semester for trying to implement student-centered approaches when I was required, so-called required. I'm not too good with required to do a 6-step lesson plan, was very teacher-centered, and I thought was not correct way to do it. And I got literally dismissed and had to go to another university. And that's another whole story. But this is why I began later in 1998 to develop in my dissertation about a probe method. Okay, and I actually used the probe method. It's a learning model for fourth graders that I use, fourth and fifth graders, and it's a problem-based learning model, and its effect on critical thinking skills. And I did this study in 1998 with fourth and fifth graders. Okay, and the probe method is a problem-based learning method using group investigative cooperative learning approach to solve real world problems. Okay, and this problem was presented about the housing shortage in 6 different countries. And so there were 6 groups of students, and they each took a country, and they each delved into that problem. Why is there a housing problem in this country? And they were to come up with some ideas, solutions on how do you solve that problem. How do you, in that particular country, because each country would be different. Okay, so this was the study of 4th, 5th graders, and it did show, using the Cornell critical thinking skills test and other qualitative data, that the students significantly improved their critical thinking skills just in the 6 weeks period. And the problem is that we don't give students chances to think about things like this. We give them subject matter to say, here, learn this fact, regurgitate what I tell you, and we'll see if you pass or whatever. I'll give you a grade. And that's the wrong approach, totally wrong approach. Okay, and so the positive aspects of the probe method is that it gives children a chance to think and work together and have some freedom of here, I want to do this, or I want to do this, or and they begin to understand, say, other people in other countries, or because they understand the problem is complex. It doesn't involve one topic or the other, or one subject or other. It's a culmination of a whole lot of sciences and philosophies and politics and things like this. And they feel good about that. Okay, the children do. They wow, I'm understanding stuff, and they get excited about it. Okay, there's another study that actually a student of mine did on the probe method, Diane Specht, and it was on probe methods' impact on students' motivation and critical skills. And she did this at a high school level. Okay, and her findings was that the probe method had a positive effect on high school students' motivation to learn and their ability to think critically in a career technical education program. This study supports positive social change by providing high school CTE teachers with very valuable learning model that infuses reflective thought, collaboration, communication, problem solving, and critical thinking into the learning process, while at the same time motivating students to learn. Okay, this was in 2015. Okay, and there should be, hopefully, there'll be more studies. There needs to be more studies on this approach, the positive aspects. And the question is, how can the probe method transform education? Well, like I said, there's a lot of problems with the school system, and we need to make it where students like to go to school. Okay, they have opportunities to work together in cooperative learning rather than competition. Schools don't need grades and grade levels, not children. This is not the education for children. I worked in a Quaker Friends middle school, and they had 3 years of school, but we really didn't call it grade levels. It was like, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, but they just went from one year to the next, and we didn't give grades as on the report card. We gave evaluations and sat down with parents, said, explained to them, because there's many ways to provide feedback and evaluation without just giving them a letter grade. And so we had those sort of consultations. And you don't really need grades with children, okay? You need to make school a happy place where they're excited about it. That's how they can transform education. And the kids that worked at that friend school, well, the kids that went there, they actually loved to come to school. We took them out places, and even things like taking them to a place to cut vegetables up in a food bank as part of their week. But those are just some of the examples where kids love to go to school if you give them a place that they're not being treated like they're in prison, and they have to sit there and they're not thinking. See, that's how they can transform education too. Not only the motivation to learn and the excitement to learn and the willingness to learn, which means real, true learning, but it's giving education a level for higher level thinking. And that's what makes us humans and different from robots or anything else. And we have emotions. And you don't develop these skills by sitting and listening to lessons one after another. You learn these things by getting involved and giving students freedom and opportunity themselves to learn. Okay? And the probe method is actually, after using it for several years, I have seen it as a way for self-enlightenment, basically, just, where you delve deeper and deeper into a topic or a question about life, about anything, or a problem, and you go into it to a level where you reach an understanding of what life is, who you are, and it can lead to enlightenment. Okay, so, and this is, you say, well, is that part of education? Well, it's part of life. Education is life. We need to give children the opportunity to learn and develop and grow. Okay, and so this is part of, where I want to lead this is to one of my books. It's called Transformation of Human Consciousness by Design. And that's changing, one thing is changing schools so that schools are helping children's evolutionary process of their consciousness, which is to develop freedom, and it's developed love, and it's developed joy. Okay, and so the probe method was part of this book, this first book that I wrote, and it's part of how to create a constructivist school system, and how these things are interconnected is that in order for the consciousness to evolve, we have to be able to be free, we have to think, we have to question, and we have to do this on our own. Okay, each person has to do this. Okay, and the probe method helps people to delve into themselves, life, all the questions of the universe. Okay, is delved into and deeper, and that helps raise the level, of our human consciousness. Okay, so the probe method and the freedom and love joy movement, therefore, is connected, as I kind of described earlier, about how the probe method gives people freedom. It gives children freedom to learn and teach them how to learn, teach them how to be free, give them those skills for self-responsibility, and also the responsibility of giving other people freedom, and put them in an environment this probe method does of sharing and understanding, which help them to develop love and a joy for learning, joy of life. Okay. So I hope you will join me in the future and watch my videos.